All systems go. Cleared for takeoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo. Got another new show for you guys. This is one I'm truly excited about. Got my guy Degenerate75 here with me. Bring him in a minute. But if you're just joining us for the first time, do us a favor on the way in. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe as well. We're almost to 3,000 subscribers. I think we're 40 or 50 away. Today could be the day that we get over the hump. We're going to be giving away a 6-month bundle to SHIPITNation.com. If you guys missed the promo pricing on SHIPIT Nation over the past week, leading up to the launch, we will have a special promo code for you later. But James, my guy, been excited to do a show with you for a long time. Happy we're going to have this and many more coming their way. Talk to the people, man. What do we got coming this season on this NFL show? And how are you doing today on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
I'm pretty fucking excited. Week 2 of NFL is the best because it's like overreaction city. Everybody's drawing these grand conclusions. I think the only conclusion you should draw after week 1 is that the Jets are fucked. I think that's the only real conclusion we can draw. But other than that, like, everybody's going to say, oh, Josh Allen sucks now and all these things. Let's pump the brakes. As far as what we got going on, I mean, I think we've realized that we just have a lot of the same ideas about DFS, a lot of the same people that like to watch our content. So let's just do this together. Let's really break down the slate, get people thinking, because part of the fun of DFS is having a full couple days. This is why I love NFL and PGA. It's not every day, so I get to have a couple days to let those thoughts marinate in my head, change my opinion on some stuff, evolve, and then by the night before, I'm ready to build my lineups and go at it 100%. And that's what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So people wondering out there, this is going to be the same time, same place every week. Same time, not same place. Every week, same day, same time. But this week is on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube channel. Next week, we'll hop over to Degenerate75 YouTube channel. And we'll just crisscross back and forth, just help with some cross engagement. It's a little fun with the partnership that way. Should say off the top that if you guys do want to check out Degenerate75, go to the website there, degen75.com, and use promo code SHIPIT. Or you can go to shipitnation.com/dgen75 as long as you use the code SHIPIT to get 10% off any membership of your choice. James will go through it all at the end. We'll save that, but there is going to be a special code to get the best deal that you can possibly get to get on shipitnation.com right now. Talk to you about your week 1, just takeaways, thoughts. You don't have to go through exactly how you did or your lineups or all that. We can talk some of that stuff, but we said we would always start this show reflecting a little bit on week 1. Then we're going to do sort of a game by game, just not every game, but to look at what games people might be looking at for DFS this upcoming week. We'll do a DK price reaction where we can see what those prices look like over on DraftKings. And at the end, we'll open it up for all your guys' question and answers, try and help you guys out there. But talk to me about week 1 for a little bit.
I mean, my biggest takeaway was that the chalk game, the game that everybody had targeted as the best scoring game, was definitely the Chargers and the Dolphins. And then it got there, and then the Tua stacks were incredibly underowned. So for once, that was like the chalky game didn't end up being as chalky as we thought, and then it was still the nutted play. So if I have a big takeaway, it seems as though people maybe are not stacking the chalky game as much. Maybe that's a bit of an overreaction after week 1. But in hindsight, why was I not playing just Herbert and Tua stacks all day long, as they were both at very reasonable ownership in a game environment that was definitely set up to be the best game on the slate and ended up being the best game on the slate? So I'm really just upset that I didn't just stack that, right? I got cute going with the Lamar stacks, which, whatever with that game. And then Deshaun Watson, who ended up being really good while he got completely counterfeited out of a complete half because of a random fucking storm that popped up.
Yeah, I was with you on both those, raising my hand on both those guys. I got in on pretty much any quarterbacks like that. And I guess my takeaway was that look, we knew the pricing came out the end of July. So it's always this way. The last couple of years have been the exact same way, where the first week, it's like, everyone's all the chalk got there. Now, the other thing we always know, though, is that quarterbacks get spread out completely. And so even though Tyreek was heavily owned and Mostert and some of those other guys in that game, Tua was not heavily owned. So you could still get action to that way. I saw the tweets go out today. Tua was number 1 quarterback in week 1. Yeah, this guy, the Peace Man, Cheetah, he's got a little something to do with that. Dragging that. He'll drag anybody along, but good for Tua, good for Miami, good for the people that played those stacks, whatever. But my point would be, to what you said, is I still was trying to look for those other game environments, because while the pricing was efficient and we knew it, and really in some cases just wrong, and that's why you could just plug these plays in, I thought like it still doesn't have to mean that is the game that you need to go to. There is other ways to go about it. Just didn't quite get much out of anywhere else. So anything else for you on the week one stuff? I mean, I tried Geno stacks. I was looking for condensed offenses. So I was looking at Geno stacks. I was looking at some Russell Wilson stacks because we knew Sutton, Mims, maybe one of the tight ends. Is there a way you could get around that? Devontae Adams on the other side, I thought coming in under Jefferson, Tyreek, and Chase. I was looking for different angles that way, but in the end, still use some of those chalkier plays at running back and other positions that not all of them came through.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I have is like these week one guys who disappointed. A lot of people were very bullish on people like Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields in the preseason, and they did not have great week ones, right? And so people are now drawing these grand conclusions about how they were all wrong and how they can't get there. And that just makes Josh Allen would also be on that list. And all those guys are now like all my favorite targets this week, because everybody wants to draw these grand conclusions from one game that could have been affected by weather, could have been affected by the game script, or maybe they just had a bad game and like, let's not do week one overreactions.
Yeah, history does keep repeating itself, at least on week ones. But history, if it does repeat itself for week two, we would say exactly what you just said. There is going to be overreactions. We'll look at that when we start doing the sort of what games are people on, breaking down the pricing and whatnot. But just off the top of your head, because that kind of could segue us in there, who are some of these overreactions you're going to see that will lead to the main slate in week two? Because there's big contests out there. Should note, I know you love to do a contest selection and breakdown. There's the 555 Milli Maker this week, which some people got some free tickets to last week. So, I mean, there's that one to look at. But outside of that, there is other good tournaments. So what's your takeaway on some of the overreactions we might have seen coming from week one leading into week two?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are realizing that people think that Lamar had a bad game because they just simply look at the fantasy score and don't really look at it in totality. First of all, he was missing his biggest target in Mark Andrews, who I would suspect is probably going to be back this week. And they're going to be playing Cincinnati, who I know everybody thinks is offensively deficient, but like, let's not forget they still have Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins. And so like that just seems like a game environment where it could be like a super sneaky shootout and no one's going to want anything to do with that game, right? And then I think the other big one is, anytime I can get one of the three best quarterbacks in the NFL at like 5% or less ownership, give them to me. So give me all the Josh Allen this upcoming week, because people think that after watching that game last night against the Jets, who have a very good defense, that Josh Allen somehow sucks now because he threw 3 interceptions. I don't give a shit. I'm going right back to Josh Allen. Give him all to me. Yeah,
there's going to be lots of good games to talk about. I want to talk quickly about the chat, though, first. Some great fans in here, content goats on the same stream. Love to see it. Best collab in the business. Another good one. 2 of my favorite content creators. So we knew people would be excited about this. Is this heaven? Our guy, Nick. Love Nick. He's a great guy. Just lots of good people in there, and I can't get them all, but just to say thank you to you guys. We appreciate it. Like James had said off the top when we started talking, we said, we should just be doing a show together. It's that simple. What can we do? Everyone knows us usually, at least from golf, but we do a lot in the football streets. The crossover from the 2 sites just made sense because we don't have our guy Smarty, shout out to him. He's doing a lot of work. He can't be in there every single day. People hound him. He's doing a lot of great college football stuff, but James is covering it on the daily, weekly, etc. too. So it's, it's something where he has that. And then he doesn't have, say, MMA or NHL or MLB and some crossover on some of the other sports. So, and then even on sports like PGA, where we're going to do some stuff together there as well. We can do a show together. We don't have any showdown projections or ownership. James has some of the best. So we're going to have a crossover there. But that's like I said, this is the perfect pairing. We're just as excited about it as you guys are. We appreciate all the support as always. And then, James will talk about that too. The Rosetta Stone. I've been messing around with that thing in college football, everything else, watching them go through it for Showdown. Lots of good stuff in that you can use as well. Anything on the collab more that you want to talk about, James? If not, we can get into some of these games we think people are going to be targeting.
I mean, if I could just my biggest thought is the big important part of the partnership to me was affordability, right? I'm not trying to price gouge people. And the crazy thing is you can have the biggest package at your site, the biggest package at my site, and it's still going to be cheaper. Those two combined than almost any quote unquote tout site out there. So to me, just the affordability to get a good product and get it at a competitive price, even 2 of them, that was important to me. So that would be my big
we're putting the work in. That's what I love about you. Always putting the work in. I've been with James, for those who don't know, since day one, when he was betting his buddies to see if he can get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I followed his stuff right out of the gate. I thought it was different than what was going on in the rest of the industry. I thought he really carved out a space in a good niche in Showdown. PGA Showdown is awesome. We all love it. So where the Showdown Hoedown came from, all that stuff, I've been following since day one. I've been featured, grateful to be on his shows with them doing, talks golf with smart people before it became sports with smart people. So I've been there all along. Love what James is doing. That's probably enough back and forth there on that. But I like this one. Mother Fathers Nation. That's a good one too. So definitely an affordable price at both sites. And we're both really about not just the picks and plays. Obviously, we feature those because that's something people want in a time crunch. And we really do respect people's time. But we have tools, rankings, projections, player projections, ownerships, all that stuff to go with it, where you actually don't need any of our picks and plays. And you can just go learn to get better for yourself. And then we have the education course where Hoop and myself recorded a 4-hour NFL DFS course that you get free on any sign up. Again, James has the code. Stick around to the end. You'll get the best deal possible. But let's look at this week 2 stuff, James, and just diving in. You got Mahomes versus Trevor Lawrence. You got Josh Allen, who you said's back on the slate. You talked about that one. I think the Burrow and Lamar game will be interesting. What are some of the other games, though, that are standing out to you? And what do you see in those ones, too, that we can talk about?
I have to assume that Seattle at Detroit is going to be very popular. People love a good dome game. People love Detroit because they have a great offense and they seem to still not play any defense. So I have to imagine that that's going to be a game that really sticks out. And then the other one, as you already said, Kansas City, Jacksonville, I'm pretty sure is going to be the most popular game on the slate. My only concern with that game is, even though I think it will be a great scoring environment, we're not going to have any weather issues. We have 2 efficient offenses, 2 really good quarterbacks. That's not the easiest game in the world to stack because both of those quarterbacks like to spread the love to a lot of different receivers. So, if you're one of those guys that really likes to get the concentrated usage of certain pass catchers, that's going to be a tough one to stack because you're going to need to build like 50 versions of that game to get the stack just right, I would imagine.
Yeah, do us a favor if you're just joining, hit that like button. And then again, like I said, we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers here. So we're only about 50 away. I think we can do it today. If you guys can do us a favor, hit that subscribe. We're going to give away a 6-month bundle to shipitnation.com to somebody random. But our guy, Nick, he remembers, and shout out to our guy, Hoop, over at the site. It was actually week 4 last season. He won the Millie Maker on this game stack. He had 6 guys from this game on total game stack. So he's right. That was the nuts last year. The other thing, though, someone mentioned this. I'm not taking shots. I love the ideas and the thoughts, but where was it here? It was this one. I think what you just said, I echo this all the time. It's not lost me very much money. It's won me great money on showdown slates, but on main slates, I can typically just move off Mahomes and not feel mad about it. Like, he gets there all the time. He can still get 30 points, but it's, did you get enough lineups around it to be able to have the right setups? And he has so many options. They sat nobody last week. Every single one of those wide receivers was active. There was 2. There's always 2. We know what they are, but there's 2 tight ends when Kelsey is out. Like, they have the whole 9 yards that you got to mess around with the play. So it's really tough to get that right. If anything, I'd probably lean to the Jacksonville side where we saw it a bit tighter. Another overreaction, just speaking on that game too, could be, I don't know if you saw this stuff about Christian Kirk. Like, he's done now. It was all about last season. It's like they still paid the guy the money. I don't think ETN is all of a sudden, I hope he is, because I like ETN. I like his game, but he should have been getting more passes and stuff, and they finally involved him. But does that just automatically carry over? And Scary Creation says at 5,100, we're going to get to that price breakdown in a minute, but do you think he'll get ownership at that price at 5,100? Because people say, oh, no one will go back to him because of week 1. Well, it was just a couple years back when Will Fuller, if you remember this, was, oh, no one will play him this week. They played him every week until week 5 when he exploded. Everyone victory lapped it. And like, he's still 40% owned or something. Like, it just never ended. And people just continue to play these same guys.
Don't forget about the overreaction that Calvin Ridley is now the new Randy Moss, too, okay? Don't forget that one. He's the greatest wide receiver of all time now. Christian Kirk is – I cannot imagine anybody that's not, like – the only people that are going to play Christian Kirk this week are people playing the game and understanding that, like, there's going to be a regression off of Ridley, and likely that is to benefit Kirk. But I think most people are just going to see this game environment, going to see the points that Ridley scored, and especially in the main public-type contests like the Millionaire Maker, I think Ridley's going to be super owned, and Kirk is going to be the most obvious pivot in the world. But people don't realize obvious pivots because they're not playing the game. They're just trying to get in what makes them feel nice and warm and safe, and that will be Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, and do you know his price this week? I know we're double dipping here, but do you have any idea? Just guess. If you have, or maybe you've seen it.
I haven't seen it. I would guess. I mean, surely they bumped him up to 7,500.
72. You're close. So
okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a steep price bump when the other guy, Christian Kirk, is 5,100. And then what's Zay Jones? Zay Jones, 4,700. So yeah, just something to look at there. I want to see too what ETN, while we're on this game, I don't mind doing it this way. Again, we're trying to learn too. If you guys have feedback for us, the one thing about this is we love getting feedback on what you want to see differently or what you'd want to see more of. We're going to take all your questions at the end and go through them. We're going to try and save at least 20 minutes at the end. We can just shoot the shit back and forth and get some thoughts off of those questions and what your bounce backs might be, all that stuff. But ETN's still 6,900. So I think that is one where I think people will get on board with it. I don't see what his ownership was here last week. I know it wasn't as much because everyone's playing all the guys around him, but people are going to see, oh, now he's getting targets. And that's my point. Is he getting targets or did he get targets? That's the question, right? We don't know. And so there'll be thoughts around that. But I remember last year too, Barkley had a big week 1, Saquon. And then week 2, I think he literally got to like 40% in the main. I'm talking like the $20. He was 30 to 40% in that one and just absolutely busted because automatically people go back for it and say, oh, it's going to be the same next week. So I think that was another thought there. Anybody else you want to talk about within that game, or do you want to move on to sort of a different game and talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would just point out one more thing, right? With what you were saying about like fading Mahomes at week long is this, right? Like last week, the narrative was Rashee Rice is going to be on a snap count, right? We're not going to see a ton of him, and then he catches the touchdown and have one of the better games at the wide receiver, which only proves the point that trying to stack Mahomes is almost futile. That's what I would say at week long, because you got to have so many different iterations of it that it's like it's a kick in the dick.
Yeah, and then people always say the obvious, like, oh, you can just play him and Kelsey. Obviously, Kelsey out last week, but just say, like, oh, you can do that. It is true, but then you have to remember we're still playing a price game on Showdown. That's the move. Remember last year, I won a lot of money on the slate when he got like 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. You have him at the captain. Other people are on quarterbacks and all this other stuff, and he just takes over. But when a guy like him that spreads it around so much, you can do that, and you don't even know if that's going to work, because if a cheap tight end does similar numbers to Kelsey or price per dollar better, you're not guaranteed to get much out of that either. And then the pricing is just set up so different. So we should talk about that quick. Let's go here. Mahomes, 8,300. Just to give you an idea, Allen, 79. Lamar Jackson, 77. And then you start getting like Burrow, 69. Lawrence, 67. I can tell where people are going to be going already at those prices. And then the chat keeps talking about Chase. 2-touchdown game. What do you think about that? Because we can kind of tie that in now too.
I mean, if we're talking Jamar Chase, I think I'm all warm to the Bengals. Like, they just seem like a team. I'm going to double check the weather because I don't want them to get caught in another monsoon. But if the weather looks good there in Cincinnati, which I have to imagine it will on like mid-September, I'm all about Cincinnati. I feel like they are going to be a team that is going to just get no ownership, that still has a top 5 offense. And how often can you ever get a top 5 offense in the NFL that's very stacked at super low ownership? It hardly ever happens. And that is why the Bengals, along with the Bills, are just jumping off the page to me this week, because it's one of the few times I'm ever going to get them at this super discounted ownership.
So we'll talk about them in 1 second. Do you read this, by the way? This is kind of a fun show for this stuff because we can talk about some industry stuff too. Do you ever get the DFS daily newsletter where they write out like each day who won the slate independent of sport, and then they put a rank? Like, for example, on the Millie Maker winners, they'll put a rank on the lineup. So have you ever seen this?
So I see him on Twitter. I don't go to the newsletter or anything, but I've seen him breaking down some of the lineups there on Twitter.
Yeah, and I think they're doing good stuff. They're consistent with it, all this. The one thing I make fun of, though, is they put like a grade on the Millie Maker winner. And first of all, like, I get it, and it's just something to do. It's a content bit, but it was like my guy Irby that I got to meet in Denver. It was Nashville or Denver. I forget where I met him this year. He's a great dude. Got to meet him, and he won the Millie Maker, the Mega, on Sunday with the 44-44. He had one lineup, one bullet, which I think they should take into consideration. He knows what he's doing. He plays professionally. He's solid. I thought the lineup was solid. Like, it was really built accordingly. He played the both running backs against each other, which is unique in that tournament, while using Tua with Tyreek. He had Jefferson in there. He still got he used the 2 Green Bay guys, Musgrave and Reed, as like a mini combination pack where, like, do anything for $5,900 and you're good. And he didn't play the chalk Washington defense, which ended up being fine because it was week 1 and you got away with it and all these factors. But I thought it was really solid. They gave my guy like a C+. I was like, that's a bad grade for a Millie Maker winning lineup, not results oriented that it won. But I actually, when I did the review show and broke it down, I actually liked how he built the lineup out, especially considering he just had one team in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the whole not playing running backs against each other, that can be very misleading, because in some of those games where it's slow and sloggy or there's rain and they're just not passing it, both running backs not only sometimes can get there, they often get there together. So it's like, I don't love that, like, in shootout type games, but in the right game environment, that's fine, right? And, Musgrave, I thought Musgrave was my favorite punt tight end on the slate, so I'm not going to slander that man.
He almost had a big week too. That was the other thing. I thought he was going to have a much bigger week, but he can bounce back from. But just that note, on that note, like you said, it's similar things too. Like, strategy wise, we talk about this all the time. Usually in a secondary stack, one person from one team, one from the other that you're filling out. You already have your game stack, or your quarterback with a pass catcher and a run back, or maybe not, or whatever. Everyone will say, oh, you can't stack like 2 expensive dudes because if they hit their ceilings, then this. But some guys just rack it up. Like, if you had a game where it was like, Godwin versus Jefferson, I think they could just get 10 catches for 120 and a touchdown or not, and still have plenty of points with the catches, the yardage, the bonuses, And then their quarterback doesn't necessarily come along if that's the case. So I usually do like the cheaper secondary stacks, but just in the case of PPR, full point, like DraftKings, I actually think that's something that's viable where you can do that. It's, again, another rule like running backs against each other that just people won't play it for that reason.
Plus, people get too caught up in just total overall points, right? Like this last week was a low-scoring week. So a guy like Chris Olave, who didn't even fall in the box, ended up getting there with like 10 catches, 120 yards, got the bonus, right? He still had a very nice game and could have still definitely been in a GPP winning lineup, even though, most people would say that wasn't a slate breaker type game. There really wasn't that many slate breaker type plays in week 1 because scoring was down. So you have to look at the scoring relative to how everybody else did that week, specifically everybody else at that position, and not get caught up in the total number of points.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Did you try this out too? Guy Ilney fan says he tried out the new. I know you love it because college football is big, but now they got it. I didn't get to mess around with it week 1, but it looked pretty awesome. And obviously you would have been able to get the Herbert Tua stacks and all that stuff in there.
I played it, yeah, because I saw that it was overlay, and I went and tossed a quick 150 in at the last minute because it overlaid by about 10%, which was enough for me because I already wanted to try it. I'm a big Superflex fan. I think defenses and NFL DFS is the stupidest thing ever. So give me the Superflex, and I think I got a lineup in the top 50. It was pushing there towards the end, but it just had one slapdick in it that kind of killed its upside.
Yeah, I agree. And our guy Smarty chimed in, by the way. I know he joined your site once he found out, but he said, great CFB content. You're missing money if you're not signed up over there. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I don't think enough people know. You've talked about this plenty of times. I've followed the show. So you're like, hey, free money college football, like cash games and stuff like that. You can get into them. But talk to us a little bit about the college football stuff you got going on.
I mean, first of all, college football is there's just not many people who are going to go out there and sweat all of these teams and learn who is going, learn the depth chart, who's going to be on the field, who's going to be getting the targets, who's going to track the broken injury system that exists within college football. It's not even broken. It doesn't even exist. And so if you have a community and some people in that community that will really lay out the work and then put it in a way that's not so intimidating that, NFL people like it because they know the general players for every team, but you don't know the second wide receiver for Akron. No one does, but I do. And my team does, and so we can put out that Rosetta Stone and kind of guide you in the right direction of here are some plays, here are some guys to consider from this game, here's a game to maybe consider stacking in GPPs, here are some cash plays, here's why they're a cash play because they get this percentage of plays, they get this percentage of targets, they get this many rushing tips a game, and if you just play the best plays at college football, they get there so much more frequently than they do in the NFL for one simple reason. There's so many more plays, and the talent difference is so vast that good plays get there at college football so much more than they get there at NFL. And when you just play the best plays, you'd be amazed how much you get there at college football.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's what happened to me. Like the first week, I'm thinking my contrarian mind, it was week 0 or whatever it is, right? And I'm just messing around, testing some stuff out, trying some things. I'm like, oh, everyone's going to do this. Watch me. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not how you play this game. What you do is you can just take, because especially with Superflex, it's awesome. You're able just to go get those because the highest correlated thing that people just, some that don't know this, is quarterback versus the other quarterback. But the only type of game you can use that in is in Superflex. So that's kind of the best way to start your lineup stuff. It's almost like tiers where people are like, oh, I'll just play the best guys that project the best. It's like, no, put your correlation there. And that's how you get that leverage in these certain spots similar to that. But in week 1 of college football, the week after week 0, I'm not sure if they call it 1 or 2, but all I'm doing is following the plays. And I'm like, I'm just going to try these best plays, but put them in more of a tournament fashion, not just jam the best plays as like a cash lineup, build them out a little bit more. And I actually started having like a few sweats and things up there where I was like, okay, now I'm getting some shots here. But man, the points they put up in college football, it's just insane. So you want more college football action, go to degen75.com, use code SHIPIT. And James, I'm going to throw it out there right now because a lot of people watching, almost 200, over 100 likes already. Do appreciate you guys and the support. But essentially, this is the truth. Like we had our pricing out there forever. We kept it at the lowest price possible. It's still the lowest price out there for all that we offer. But we changed the price after the Monday Night Football of week 1 because we had to tell everybody there was a deal till there wasn't. But it's still the cheapest in the industry. But if you want 10% off your first month, or if you're just going to say, you know what, I like these guys, I'm going to go join ShipIt Nation, I want to be with them, 10% off your first month or your 6-month plan, you can go to shipitnation.com, go to join, or shipitnation.com/join, and you can use promo code DGEN75. It'll get you 10% off your first month, gets you all access to all the sports we offer, the 6 major sports, player projections, ownership. There is content on there, but there's tools, rankings, all kinds of stuff. You're already with James and you have a solver package, you can sign up for that. Shoot us an email and we'll get you all our stuff in the solver. You're already there because of James and with his stuff. So keep that in mind. But if you're doing a monthly or a 6 months, this brings it back down very close to what it was at for the best promo anyway. But this is a chance to get in with this show launching and everything we've got going on. So use promo code DGen75. It gets you right into the members Discord. Discord is amazing. Lots of sharp players in there. Lots of questions answered. People talking all day round. Anything else you want to mention on that, James? And then we can talk about this Buffalo LV game. I want to talk about this one.
I think just so many people don't even realize that they don't realize what they're missing. That's why I'm always trying to like just get people to come try it out, because once they try it out, people stick around. And you know, I've already had like over a dozen people sign up and reach out to me over at SHIPIT and just say, man, I didn't realize it would be this good. Thank you for getting me over there. Because like you don't realize how good something is until you're there. All they know is what they've experienced with other sites in the past. And let's face it, a lot of other sites don't. They're just, you know, their customers are just a number to them, and they're not a focus like we have at DGen75 and at SHIPIT. So
yeah,
that's why you got to just try it out. That's what.
Yeah, do this. Whoever, the first person to get this, I'll love to see that. Get us the banner with both them on it for the avatar. Ours are on the side under logos. I know James makes his readily available. You can put that together. I've seen some other ones out there, some collabs, but I haven't seen that one yet. And then Mike knows Musgrave costing him a touchdown. He got tackled. Yeah, that was brutal. Let's talk about this one though. You said Josh Allen, and no way he can bounce back, right?
Not
or
a
he
chance.
could, or he could.
Or he could. He is.
I got it out of him.
He is essentially one of the three best. Definitively one of the three best fantasy quarterbacks in the NFL. Like that's not even a thing that we need to even debate here. So he had a bad game against a tough Jets defense, and so now we think that Josh Allen isn't Josh Allen. Give me a break. Like give me a break. Josh Allen is unbelievable, and I pray everybody stays off of him this week. And I might just literally just only build Josh Allen lineups, because the nice thing about Josh Allen is not only can he get some done with his legs, which offers you those nice upsides to really get those 35-point games out of him, but he also has really concentrated usage, right? Like he's only throwing the ball basically to 4 guys. And when you have that, then it makes him so much easier to stack. Whereas a guy like Mahomes, you got to rotate 8 guys in with him.
Yeah, Deontay Hardy, obviously a price bump after showdown for $200, but he's 3,300. Gabe Davis, 5,800. Yep. And then you've got Stephon Diggs, 8,000. Kincaid, though, $3,300. That is, to me, just too good. And again, other people are going to play him. I think that's fine. But I saw enough last night in a bad game. Like, it was a bad game. It was clear that they're going to try and get this guy involved plenty. So, again, could Knox snipe him in the end zone? And if you're building out enough Josh Allen lineups, it's probably a good idea. Last night on Showdown, it didn't work out. But again, I'm not going to be results-oriented. It's more about process and ideas. Was last night, everyone was doing all those wide receivers. I was saying it could be a 2 tight end night, because Kincaid is not a traditional tight end, right? They're using him on different routes, cross slants, things like that, where it's like, okay, if they find him as a receiver, you could actually have seen a lineup last night in a different world, obviously now, but you could have had Kincaid get there and have Knox catch a touchdown for cheap too. And both of them were cheap enough where that could have actually worked. Now on this slate, you'll have to make a decision, but if you're building out some Josh Allen lineups, you can definitely have it set up here with one of Kincaid or Knox and go there. But I think Kincaid will get the love at 3,300 in this spot.
And I don't think you should overlook James Cook. I was really impressed with how involved he was with the pass game last night. I think that James Cook is a guy that could play nicely with Josh Allen, right? He gets one screen to the house or something like that, runs in a touchdown. Allen also, throws a couple other touchdowns. They both probably get there in a GPP winning type lineup. And at 6,100, like that's not that bad of a price. And I'm pretty sure the Raiders defense is garbage.
Yeah, 6 targets last night too. So that's pretty solid. What did Harris end up doing? Like I watched, I don't even remember seeing this guy that much out there. It looks like he got 1 rush attempt, couple of targets. So I just was trying to add it up in my head. I didn't see him enough to make it matter, but just of note, yeah, that was interesting. And then Latavius, you had him on the stone, had him on the Rosetta Stone. What do you get? A couple rush attempts? Yeah. Didn't do enough, obviously in showdown, whatever, but he looks like he got a couple targets too. He caught 1 ball for 9. So Latavius is there, but I like the James Cook call, just 6,100. On the other side, this is again where, look, it's going to be risky, but let me just check with all the prices in there. So 7,600 for Devontae Adams. I think Jamar Chase, well, it's a good spot and it's popular, and I'm going to go there too. I'm just saying, I think this is going to be a spot where it's like, oh, no one's going to go back to Chase. He's going to bounce back, and everyone is going to go back to Chase and hope for the bounce back. And maybe he does, but you can also play multiples up here. I do think, the way to get Devontae Adams is in that game stack where it's Adams with Allen, and then whatever else you want to plug in, and just hope they go a little bit more back and forth. Any thoughts on Devontae Adams before you move on?
I mean, if I'm running a Buffalo stack, like obviously my 2 favorite runbacks are going to be Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. I think one of those guys, if they push this game and it's competitive, one of those 2 guys is probably having a smash spot. Only problem you're going to start running into is if you already have Allen and you're stacking him with Diggs and you want to get Adams in there, like you're already spending a massive amount of your salary on that one game, and you're going to need it to really explode to get you where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
And that's also my concern about the Jamar Chase side of stuff. Is a Jamar Chase stack with Burrow and Chase, and then whoever you want to put in there, Higgins or anybody like that, with a run back or anything, is not going to be cheap. Is not going to be cheap either. That's my only concern with these stacks. Is I like more affordable stacks because I like to get expensive in my one-off plays.
What about back to Baker? Baker got, what did he put up? 16 last week, 34 pass attempts though, and then so he's at 5,100, and then you got Evans and Godwin at 62 and 6,000. Any thoughts on this? I'm going against Chicago, but any thoughts there?
No one loves Baker Mayfield more than me. You got to remember, I'm a Sooner fan, so he's literally my favorite player of all time. And here's what I tell you. There's just not enough upside for me in a game environment like that, right? I think Mayfield is going to have a solid season like that one he had in, 2020 or so with the Browns where he had the good season. I think he will throw for 20 to 25 touchdowns, but he just never really breaks the slate with any games. I think he is a good, serviceable NFL quarterback, but he is not a good DFS quarterback. So I'm personally not going to go there. I don't care what the price tag is. The game, I see a 41-point total on that game. Both teams are slow and sloggy. That's just not the kind of game I want to get my quarterback in because, in my opinion, there's almost no chance it shoots out.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Again, the totals are low in these games. The first couple games we talk about, like 51.5 right now in Jacksonville versus Kansas City. Buffalo with Las Vegas is at 47 right now. This is 41.5. Next game, Green Bay Atlanta is 41. Do you have anything in that one before we go to the Seattle Detroit game?
So I do have something, and the more I think about it, it's in a dome, which, let's just face it, when if they're in a dome, DFS scoring goes up about 3 to 5%, right, depending on how you want to measure it. And this game is in a dome, and Jordan Love kind of freaking impressed me. Maybe the Bears are just hot garbage, and he was playing above his pay grade. But like if he is going to have a full complement of weapons, I think that they can move the ball, and I think he's really talented. And the best part is his receiving options are super cheap, and I don't know what his salary is off the top of my head, but I can't imagine he's above 6,000. Is he?
Just
let's see, Jordan Love, 5,500.
55,
yeah, that's just such an affordable stack, right? So I'm actually, I don't love the total points in that game, but man, if I had to pick, Jordan Love would definitely be the side I would get in on that game.
Yeah, Reed got 5 targets, but only made 2 catches. But they're big catches, so I mean, you see that. Musgrave still 3,200. I think this is a spot. So I just want to go here quick. Ilney, the engagement from Ilney, I love to see it, but said field stack with Moore and Kmet and running back. I actually think you could easily, if you were doing this, I'm just saying, and same idea here, you could go like Fields, Kmet, and pick one of those guys and hope that gets there. I just don't think you need to overstack it or be crazy, but this is an if then. Again, not giving you picks, just saying if you were going there, that's how I might go with it. The one you just mentioned, though, I kind of like too, is like with Jordan Love, you can double stack him, but you could also just say Jordan Love, Musgrave, get a cheap quarterback, a cheap tight end, and just get away with it and do whatever else you wanted. If you don't want to play an Atlanta guy, you don't have to. If you don't want to go further with that stack, you don't have to. But you're already so different that you can start stacking in, and now you have the affordability to be able to put whatever you want in there. You're under 9K for 2 guys.
If you want to run a stack from a low scoring total, right? So the Chicago Tampa Bay game or the Green Bay Atlanta game, just run skinny stacks. Run a quarterback and one of his pass catchers, and a lot of times you don't even need to worry about a running back. And that you'd be surprised how often that gets there. And then you can go stack pieces of a chalkier game. Like if you want to get some of that KC Jacksonville game, go run 2 KC guys and run it back with 1 Jacksonville guy. So you still have a correlated lineup, but it's not all stuck on your primary stack. You just go get that skinny stack of Jordan Love and Romeo Doubs or whoever it is that you want to play with him, right?
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to the Seattle-Detroit game because that one's going to be talked about a little bit more. We'll rush through some of these other ones and save for just a couple big ones. Then we'll open it up to questions at the end. Want to keep these shows under an hour, but Jared Goff, 6,200. Geno Smith, 5,900. And then you go look at their options. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 78. You got Lockett, 6,100. I think what happened with him, he left the game for a minute and then came back or something. I can't remember exactly how it shook out. It wasn't ideal, but Metcalf had a touchdown. JSN is 4,500 now. Lots of options within this. Then you go to tight end, Laporta, 3,900. So what's your thoughts early in this game? Running backs, Walker is 5,800. Montgomery is 5,800. Gibbs, 6,300. Give me your thoughts on this one.
So this isn't a game I'm looking to stack, but it's certainly a game I'm looking to get a part of, right? So what I do with games like this that I like, but I don't necessarily love the quarterbacks as stackable options, is I just go make it like my secondary, what I call my secondary correlation, right? So I have my primary stack, usually a run back if it's the right game environment. And then what I will do is I will make a rule when I'm building my lineups that the lineup, every time it contains a Seattle player, it must be run back with a Detroit player, because this is a game that I'm going to want to have a piece of. So having some DK Metcalf and running it back with Jahmyr Gibbs is something that really appeals to me, right? Maybe running a Kenneth Walker and running it back with an Amon-Ra St. Brown as a secondary correlation is something that really appeals to me. So this is certainly a game I'm going to have access to, but I don't think it's going to be one of those games that I'm going to make the primary focus of my lineups this week.
Yeah, one thing I like to do, I'm glad you brought that up, because we'll touch on, Chargers, Tennessee quickly, but Baltimore, Cincy will come up again. But like, here's an example. I like Kenneth Walker and Laporta. But now what I also might do is double down on that. Not only am I leveraging by just playing the running game and a tight end that can pick up some cheap catches and make do for his value at that price, but I'm not playing Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,800. So maybe this is where Jamar Chase plugs in at 7,900, and you're kind of like going against that grain too. You're saying, I'm not playing Amon-Ra or a game stack here, but I'm going to have a similar build to those game stacks where if Chase beats him and if one of Burrow or Lamar beats these other guys, again, price matters, but just to say it, you got to have it set up where you can kind of double leverage that. I like something like that in these smaller field tournaments, especially too. So anything else on that game? If not, let's look at the Chargers, Tennessee Titans.
You always need to be thinking about what this guy does and how it impacts others. So if Laporta does, let's say he gets 6 catches, 82 yards, and somehow manages 2 touchdowns, that will directly negatively correlate to Amon-Ra St. Brown's success. So if he's doing that, if Laporta is going to have that big game, that the games that you get once or twice a year, well, then that is going to negatively affect Amon-Ra, and then you should not be looking to pair those together. You should be looking to spend that money on a Jamar Chase. Or somebody like that, right? Or a Steph Diggs. Go get that one-off piece from another game and get off the chalkier piece in that game, who will certainly be Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely like that. Let's talk Chargers, Titans. Anything in this one that you're high on or anything that you want to spend time on?
I mean, I'm always a Justin Herbert slut. I love him. But just every time a game's in Tennessee, it's like outside of like playing Derrick Henry to go off for his like one of his 2 50-point games a year, I don't know. Those games just always seem boring and sloggy to me, and they just don't seem to shoot out. I certainly don't want anything to do with Tennessee's passing game. I think Tennessee still is slow. They still play solid defense, so that really kills a lot of my interest in the Chargers. If anything, I think I come in here and maybe get a little Derrick Henry, Mike Williams correlation, but even that I don't love. I think I would just be looking for a naked Derrick Henry because nobody ever likes to play that guy anymore.
Yeah, and Mike Williams could be a guy where it's kind of the opposite effect of what we just talked about with like a Jamar Chase. We said, oh, he busted, got to get back on him. But why is it not the same for Mike Williams?
Right.
Left the game injured for a little bit, came back. I mean, he still got 4 for something, I think, on 5 targets. Like, he could have had a better game. He's the exact same price, 5,700. I think last year we saw a lot of teams pass on Tennessee, to be honest. So I think there's definitely opportunity here where you could get back in on this. And this one, 45, right? It's sitting right there in the middle of that total. So I actually don't hate getting in a little bit of action early in my mind on this game, but Baltimore Cincy will definitely be one to talk about. Lamar 77, Burrow 69. We already talked about Chase at 79, Higgins 64. Zay Flowers got the bump, not much though, 5,000. And then right now, we'll see how this shakes out, but Irv Smith and Likely are both 3,200. I don't see the update on Andrews. Do you see an update on Andrews? He's priced at 6,300.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big piece of news, right? Like, if he's out, I think Isaiah Likely was like 30% owned last week. So I think he burned enough people that people aren't going to want to go back to him. So if Andrews is out, Likely is likely going to be in my lineups because he burned everybody last week. And so I got to get some access to him. And he pairs so nicely with a run back to a Jamar Chase or a T. Higgins or, hell, even a Joe Mixon, who is just like going to be a volume hog this year, right? Yes, yeah. He still was wildly inefficient week 1, but like when all else fails in the NFL, give me volume over efficiency any day of the week.
Yeah, I like that call. I was heavy on Mixon last week and didn't get anywhere with it, obviously. But if you wanted to look at it from that perspective, here's the thing too. Like Andrews, I just saw an update said he looks good on Monday. At least that's what Harbaugh says. So we'll see how he comes through. But wouldn't it be so classic that Andrews is back and then Likely gets a touchdown or two? Like that's just pretty standard stuff. If you've been playing DFS for a while, it's much more risky. I get it. I'm just saying, you could have like a Mixon Likely stack, and then who knows what happens, and they could still use them and put them out there. And we've seen other backup tight ends get on showdown slates. We do it all the time. Now, this is a main, which makes it much more risky. I get it. I understand. I'm saying, but just one of those things, gut feel that you can kind of get a feel for after the time. Someone asked any update on Kelsey. We hit on that game earlier, but could be ready to play. It says as of week 2 was the last report from Glazer. So anything else on this Baltimore-Cincy game or anything you want to add there?
Yeah, of all the games week 1, I watched the Baltimore game most closely because I had Lamar, and he was my number 1 stack that I played this week. And so I was watching that game very closely. And my takeaway is Zay Flowers is fucking electric. Like, that guy is he is something. Like, he is a real player, and I think that he is a wide receiver that Lamar has never had, right? And so I'm a big buyer on Zay Flowers after watching week 1.
What do you think his ownership gets to? Because I was talking, you followed me as well for years to hear this stuff, but like Best Buy pricing, if they made him $4,900, I feel like he'd be much more popular than when he went to $5. If the TV's $499, it's a better deal. Give the honey a little bump and say, it's $499, honey. We got this. $500 though? No. We're not buying that TV.
It's that we see this at PGA all the time. I call it the magic 5-figure number, right? When JT's 10,000, no one wants to play him. Oh, JT's 9,900, gotta play him. He's a discount. He's only 4 figures, right?
It's $100, yeah.
Yeah, it's $100 difference. It literally makes no difference in the construction of your lineups, but it plays psychological games. That's the same reason that that you just said it. They price TVs at $499 because people are like, oh shit, it's $400. Okay, well, I mean, the same people that would buy that TV are the same people that will now go play a guy at that extra one. And I do buy that 5,000 is a magic weird number for people. When they see that first number is a 3 or a 4, they instantly think value. But when they see that 5 to the reptilian brain, that's now expensive. So I think Zay Flowers is going to have some ownership, but I think I would be shocked if he got over 12%.
Yeah. And just some of the stuff like Steven, the strategy ideas, this is why this show is going to be electric. And like I said, we're going to have it all throughout the season for football. So you'll see it every week on Tuesdays at 12 Lord's time zone, 1 Eastern for those that still follow that. We got to have a little bit of both on here. I mean, I'm in a total time zone people in the States don't even have. So
you're like in the Titanic Saint time zone, right? You're like,
yes,
way the hell
exactly.
out there.
Atlantic time zone. Yeah. So just to note that, I mean, we'll be here every Tuesday. We love doing this. That's what we have fun with. This is the great hearing this approach. Right? It's not necessarily exactly that, but like Mama Rock says, thanks for giving theory and education. I don't need picks. I need help with the thought process and stats to follow what the stats mean. Appreciate you. That is what we're all about. Same over at SHIPIT Nation, same at Gen 75. Same reason this collaboration made so much sense is because, yes, we have picks and plays, but that's not what it's all about. There's tons of nights that I'm going to lose and other members are going to win a bunch of money because they've got education. They're learning to get better as players. They've got all the tools, rankings, data, projections, ownership, everything you could possibly think of to use. As we say, everything you need to have success with DFS. And speaking of pricing, $69, not $70, Bob. We got $69.
Nice.
Price so nice. You can price so nice. What is it again? A price so nice.
What is it?
You don't think twice.
You don't think twice. There we go.
Don't think twice, Bob, as you'd like to say. $69. But if you want to get it for some weird number, like $62, you can use promo code DEGEN75. So check that out. But yeah, this guy says it too. LTZ is now a thing. Lord's time zone, baby. We got to use that here. So someone else mentioned Tweezy's been helping us out in the chat. Shout out Tweezy. Said Flowers 6,600 on FanDuel. 5K might end up being a bargain. The guy gets open, man. You see some of the routes that he runs. I'm obviously a homer, big time Baltimore fan, as you see behind me. But
be careful with that DK pricing or with that FanDuel to DK pricing, guys. Just so you know, they're not proportional to each other, right? Like you get what's the average on FanDuel? I believe it's 9 players, 50,000, so 5,500 per player is what you get. Over on FanDuel, I'm pretty sure it's 6,250 per player you get. So it's not a true apples to apples comparison comparing those two salaries. Just be careful with that.
Yeah, let's keep moving on. Let's go Indy Houston quick. I don't know if you have a lot in this one. Someone talked about playing a lot of Dameon Pierce. Anybody you want to talk about within this one?
These are just the kind of games I feel like Richardson's going to be pretty popular. He was popular week 1. He delivered. He kind of did get there with the legs that we were talking about. But to me, these are just the kind of games I, by and large, like to stay away from. Maybe I go grab some random one-off piece like a Dameon Pierce or something like that. But by and large, I have just found in the long term, trying to not get cute with these ugly games pays me dividends in the long run. That's just been my experience.
Yeah, of note, Richardson price bump to 6,300. Pierce still 5,600, fair. Pittman didn't really get too much of a bump, 6,300. Nico Collins on the opposite side, 4,800. I mean, there is definitely some options you could get to here, but just keep it moving. We'll go to the next one. Giants, who got absolutely crushed, and then Arizona. So what are you gonna do with this one here?
I mean, it's just another ugly game. I think both these teams are like, their defenses are better than, I mean, I know like we're going to overreact to Giants defense after week 1 versus the Cowboys, but really they just got in a bad spot there getting down with the turnovers early. I think both these defenses are solid, and I'm actually, when both defenses are solid, I'm not super pumped to play either team's offense. If you force me to pick somebody from this game, of course I'll go with the Saquon bounce back. But once again, I just think there's other places I'd rather spend my money, like running backs that have bigger upside than him on this slate.
Yeah. If you guys like this content, throw us a like. We're almost at the subscribers now. We're about 30 shy from 3,000. So keep doing us a favor there. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and then you could start throwing your questions in there now. There's 3 games left to talk about. So we'll go through these ones pretty quickly, I think. And then we'll get to your questions at the end, maybe throw up some defenses, things like that. If we want to hit anything else before we get out of here. Third last game that I've got here, James, is going to be San Francisco versus the Rams. Any love here in this one? We know here's an overreaction for you. Puka Nacua is now Cooper Kupp was just a system wide receiver. We got the new guy, and he's 4,900 this week. Best buy pricing. There you go.
Watch out for those Mormons. They'll get you. Puka Nacua was so good to me last year at Cash. I was all about that guy. I drafted him every last round of best ball. I was taking that guy. So now I look like a genius after week 1. I think for these the San Francisco Rams game, this is my big hot take this week, is look at the afternoon slate. It is so gross. And part of being a good DFS player at NFL is having a plan for late swap, right? Rather you're doing good, how you can block people out. If your early slate goes bad, how you can make some pivots to try to get back and maybe get a min cash or shoot up the leaderboard if somebody has you blocked out. And this afternoon slate sucks. And to me, the only game that's really appealing to me that I'm going to want to maybe have some action on is this San Francisco Rams game. If the Rams can, continue to be functional on offense, I think we saw San Francisco is going to be very efficient on offense this year. And so this could be a game that I have some chalky pieces in. And if things are going well early, I leave those guys in there to block a lot of people out. And if things go bad early, maybe I get off of this and I go switch to the nastiest pivots ever, right? I go play that somebody from the Cardinals. I don't even know, right? But that's just something I've noticed is how bad the afternoon slate is this week. And that's really going to affect your strategy when it comes to late swap.
Yeah, I got one for you here in this game, and then we got the last 2 coming. People are starting to throw their questions in there, so we'll get to all those. But Ayuk, 5,800, broke the slate on week 1 for a lot of people. Like, he had a great week, obviously. Debo, 5,600 this week. Thoughts there?
Debo's the play, right? Don't overreact to Brandon Ayuk. He is not going to be a wide receiver 1. Brandon Ayuk has always been this guy where he doesn't do shit, has these big 3 or 4 spike weeks a year. This has always been who he is. So just because he had it week 1, now everybody thinks that's going to continue. The only difference between what Brandon Ayuk did this year versus previous years is he didn't wait till week 4 to have his massive game. He did it week 1, so now everybody thinks he's wide receiver number 1. He ain't. Yeah,
I'm with you. I actually liked Debo quite a bit last week. It just ended up being Ayuk, but I think that's good process. You can just stick with it and go back. I don't know. Again, feels already like when you see these things early, sometimes I can just recognize that they might get a little bit of steam as the week goes on. I could see this game being popular for secondary stacks. Like you said, like someone will say, okay, I'll go to Nacua or Atwell and try and get, because by the way, Atwell, $200 less than Nacua. And then you got Debo Samuel, $200 less than Ayuk. So I could see where people are doing something like that here. Maybe even back in the Arizona game, someone like James Conner gets picked up, and just some of these afternoons that that's not a secondary stack. We're just saying someone in using afternoon guys. There's going to be at least 3 or 4, I think, that we'll find. But let's talk about Washington, Denver quick. This one here, Javonte Williams, 5,600. Wilson is 5,800. Howell, 5,400. McLaurin, every receiver in this game is 5,700 or less. And then the tight ends, Dulcich I think got banged up for a minute there, but 3,600, 3,100 for Logan Thomas, Troutman. Anybody here within this game that you like?
Do you know the word on Sam Howell? I know he got he get concussed or something like that, which is never a good sign. Is he are we expecting him to play this week? I haven't seen any news on him.
I think so.
I
wound up getting We'll face it, Tom.
Yep. Just I'm over here looking and trying to find anything, but this game, just generally speaking, I thought Javonte looked way more involved and way more explosive in the offense than I was expecting. I think that at his talent, 5,600 in this game environment, a lower scoring game, only a 39-point total, this is a game where I will be considering Javonte. And he's a really nice one-off piece to have in the flex in the afternoon. And if you're not loving how things are going, there's plenty of wide receivers at almost the exact same price that you can switch off to and get maybe a bigger upside but less of a floor. That would be my big game theory move to how to use Javonte and how to use that game.
Yeah, 39-point total in this one, so I don't think it's going to be very popular, but I do think, like you said, sometimes those are the games that can surprise. But again, in a secondary stack or just using a one-off piece if you get the right one. And it looks like Javonte at 5,600 is popping, at least in projection stuff and everything early. So I could see people getting there. He got 6 targets as well as 13 attempts on the ground. Seems very underpriced. But again, if that pops up, it's not like anything crazy where you just have to go there. We can wait and see people maybe playing them in different formats like cash or things like that. We'll see as the week progresses, though. And then the last game before we get to the questions here, New York Jets at Dallas. Saw the Jets take a big hit last night. Obviously, people said we can't lean on them too hard for that. Obviously, unfortunate situation with the torn Achilles for Aaron Rodgers. But now Dallas coming off that big win. They are almost 10-point favorites. Another total under 40. Thoughts on this Jets-Dallas game?
Yeah, this is just a tricky one, right? Like, the problem with the Cowboys is their players are always, they're almost notoriously overpriced every week. CeeDee Lamb, to me, is always a little overpriced. Pollard is almost always a little overpriced, especially when you factor in how much volume they're getting. And you got to just ask yourself, can the Jets ever push the Cowboys, like with Zach Wilson as the quarterback? And I just don't see it, right? So that really kills a lot of the excitement I would have for the Cowboys. And the Jets, poor Garrett Wilson, man. That guy went from probably having a top 5 wide receiver year to, like, if he can be a top 15 wide receiver now, I would say compliments to him. I mean, even the one touchdown he had last night was just him being God mode and taking a terrible pass from Zach Wilson and still scoring a touchdown on it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I'm glad you said that because I was just about to say maybe he could still be a good receiver if he can make catches like that every game. He can catch from anybody because that was a sick catch. And I know it's only week 1, but definitely, like they said, early candidate for catch of the year, by far catch of the year so far. We'll see, long season ahead, but damn, that was a really nice catch in the end zone there. But also, look, someone already said in the chat earlier, we haven't talked about defense, but $2,700 Jets defense. Everyone's always saying lock them in, pull them in. Like, are they getting all those interceptions again? Whitehead had, I saw it today, a crazy stat. He had a incentive in his contract for $250,000 if he gets 3 interceptions on the season. Guy goes out and does it in week 1 against Josh Allen. Can you imagine how hard the odds are stacked against you on that? Right. And he goes out and does it? My goodness, that's crazy.
I mean, I will say he was jumping some routes. I don't know if I were a GM, I don't think I would want to be giving my DBs that incentive because they might get cooked on some double moves.
Yeah,
trying to jump routes all the time, get pick sixes.
Oh yeah, that's the difference though. You could say it just like that. Maybe that's a spot this week, but they're still just such a good defense overall.
Yeah,
tough team. We'll see how it shakes out. Obviously with less at quarterback, but again, this would be a case too. By the way, Dallas defense in week 2. Remember, everyone's going to pay up for a lot. This is another strategy piece. In week 2, a lot of people are paying up because they're paying up for overreactions, which means they're likely looking to pay down at a spot like defense, which most people are anyway. And I'm always for that. But what I'm saying is if we end up getting a popular New York Jets, just like Washington popular last week, Arizona ends up having a good game, you could see Dallas come out and tee off on, remember, it's going to be somebody like a Zach Wilson or whoever I'm thinking they're just going to roll Zach Wilson out. The sites aren't they're up for pricing, but I'm saying at the end of the day, looks like it's going to be him. So my point would be you could get the defense against him by playing some of these value plays at these other spots instead. I just thought that was an interesting note to make for this game if that defense gets popular for the Jets.
Yeah, for sure. Some of these expensive defenses this week do seem to be in some really good spots. So I do think people are going to find the money to get up to some of these more expensive defenses this week. Yeah,
Steven, I told you, true fan, baby. True fan. I had to drop a Bob. I love the shows. Go through them all. Settle down, Bob. See right here, our guy. Love playing a cheaper low OD. Lots of people do, and you should. It's oftentimes just a high variance position. I'm just saying in some cases, this is like a double down of theory around week 2. People play. They overreact. They play the guys that also came with those overreactions come price bumps. And that means they're likely paying down at defense or these expensive game stacks that make sense. And we talked about some of these. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. Whether or not Zach Moss plays for the Colts since Jackson was awful and worse chalk. Let's look up Jackson real quick here for a second. 4,900 in week 2. He had 6 targets also, by the way. So didn't do anything with them. That's for sure. Anything else that you see here? I'm trying to see some other ones in here just to go through it. No, I do not. He's a good friend of mine, but that's his thing, not mine. We don't take those game plans from other people. We use our own. I don't do that here.
I'll ban your ass on my show, though. Trust me. I don't mind copying Pat. I'll ban the shit out of you, and I'll give Pat Mayo credit when I do it.
I'm too nice. That's all it is. What was the other one? Somebody asked. My guy Shark, our guy Title, huge week. He's so humble, though. He doesn't tweet it all out always. He had a monster week in the slant. I think he won like 30K overall on the total week. And then last night he punched a King of the Beach ticket in Showdown as well. So he's getting on a little heater over here at SHIPIT Nation. We got him. So that's a good thing for Title. Always love his stuff. He does a bunch of good stuff with MMA as well. Plays a bunch of best ball. He won the Drafters Championship last year for $250K. So, that was a big thing with our sponsorship with Drafters, having last year's champion. So Browns defense week 2, what are they priced at here? Browns defense and the spot.
Let's see. Who the hell? Let's
Browns.
see. I don't even see them.
Oh, what? They're not. I don't think they're on the
They're
main
not on
slate.
the slate, right?
That's why. Yeah, my bad. Just went through all the games and we still don't got it. Chargers going to be a low-owned stack on the slate with a lot of other strong plays. Talked a little bit about that one, but I'll let you take this one. Thoughts again on going back to the Chargers? We talked about Mike Williams being the same price.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee isn't always the best team to stack against, as they love to run the ball, and they play pretty conservative defense. They don't give up tons of big plays. But I will say a 45.5 point total is right there on that cusp of like this game could be a little bit higher than people are thinking. The best part I would say about this is I'm a Justin Herbert slut, and if Eckler's out, that makes me a lot more interested in a Justin Herbert stack, as I bet they're going to certainly have to throw the ball more if Eckler's out. And I think it's a real concern that he might be out this week.
Yeah, I actually think that is a good one. Someone brought that up earlier, and I missed that one. I didn't scroll back that far. This is another good point, though, here. Travis brings up everyone. Look, the whole show, go to the back to the start. All we talked about was chase, bounce back. Sure. But Higgins 0 for 8 as well. I mean, targets were there. It's just, is that going to happen again? Probably not. So could, but probably not. So I don't hate that. He is 6,400 on this slate. So I definitely think that could be something too, playing a more balanced build when it comes to that. I don't know. Chargers low and how, we'll see. But it depends on injuries and stuff like that we see get broken out there. The Jets should go straight Ravens, run. Yeah, that's something to think about. If things are picking up in that game and they're just running all game, then maybe it's not going to be a spot for the Dallas defense like I brought up or anything like that where you just think they could go to that. Give me your thoughts on this one. I was curious because we didn't talk a lot about last night's game at the start, but Breece Hall last night, I mean, it was supposed to be limited touches. It was. Out of the first 2 touches, he had like 100 yards on 2 touches. So
Breece Hall's fool's gold to me. Yes, I know he looked great last night, but he basically did it all on 2 runs, right? And we can't discount those, but that second run, he should have went to the house. And you could just tell that wasn't the same explosive Breece Hall as last year. And he got caught from behind by a safety or a backside corner or something like that. And the most concerning thing is just go look at the snap count. Dalvin Cook is definitely getting more run than him. And so you're just not getting the upside for the price you're going to pay. So I'm a seller for a while. I need to see him get back to at least 95% because he looked about 85% last night.
Yeah, our guy Jay Steele, always in the chat. Appreciate your support. Any early value studs? I don't, again, like however you're framing it, I'm saying from a value perspective, I'm including price. And we talked about a guy like Debo, who may pick up steam. Maybe, there is that other thing too, James, I should say, where people will say, oh, there's no way Ayuk can do it again. So everyone pops on to Debo, and then it does end up being Ayuk. I can definitely tell you that. I want Debo this week. I like Debo this week early on, but there is a chance that people say it won't be Ayuk again, and you could just hop on to Ayuk if you want it. I'm just saying there's options for that. T. Higgins, who we just looked at 6,400. Christian Kirk at 5,100. Zay Flowers at 5K. These are guys that studs in the sense of could they score a lot of points for you in week 2 and have value pricing going on. I think those are some of the ones for me. Did you have others?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say this. I would say maybe you need to define what the word stud is, because if you're just defining studs as what people have done in the past, then maybe you're missing out. Because to me, a guy like Zay Flowers is a stud.
Right.
And because he's a rookie, people don't quite consider him that. But I think there is a chance we will see Zay Flowers consistently over $7,000 on the price tag as the season matures. So to me, he would be a stud. Debo would be the other one that really stands out to me as a quote-unquote stud that is underpriced.
Yeah, and then that's a key point. You imagine, like, people forget Justin Jefferson wasn't always $8,900. Like, when he comes out and starts playing and turns into Justin Jefferson in the NFL now, obviously always good. That's how he gets there like that. But I'm saying when it's Justin Jefferson in the NFL, that's how he gets to that. Not all these receivers, especially in running backs, the same. Anybody for that matter, starts at the price, and they start somewhere and slowly move up. I agree with your take there. Again, Zay Flowers just gets too open. Like, he's just wide open, and that just makes things easy on a guy like Lamar, who already is doing tricky shit against these defenses where they can't really make a move. And then if you got a guy like that getting open for him, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, they only played Houston last week. It's not overreaction. It's just standard. They should beat them. But I'm just saying they also didn't look great. I didn't think the Ravens looked great at all. And this will be a true test this week because Cincinnati did not look great. Baltimore got the job done, but it was against Houston, did not look great. Now we get to see it up against each other and find out. Typically these games, pretty close. Not I don't bet a bunch or anything like that, but I think from a betting perspective, I wouldn't hate just taking the 3.5 points. Others may like that too, but it's on the road. It's in Cincy. It's tough, but I wouldn't hate it just because usually these division games come down to pretty close battles anyway. So I wouldn't hate having the points on that side Anything else here that you saw? Someone you talked about James Cook already.
Just to go back to Zay Flowers, and never forget what my high school coach would always tell me, that Zay Flowers got just a little bit of wiggle to him. That's what really impressed me, was just how shifty he was. I was really impressed with that. James Cook, I'm very warm to. I think I'm really selling myself on this Buffalo stack, and I think to run Josh Allen, you could probably get away with just running Josh Allen with one pass catcher, because he can offer so much rushing upside, getting a rushing touchdown or two. Or you could run him with a pass catcher and a half. And when I say a pass catcher and a half, that means like a Stephon Diggs and a James Cook, or a Gabe Davis and a James Cook, because James Cook isn't your traditional pass catcher. But if he's going to continue to get 6 targets, we need to at least call him a half a pass catcher. So I don't mind the Josh Allen with a 1.5 stack.
Yeah, and it's a different way to do it, because I think most people stacking up are going to be looking at one of Kincaid or Knox, trying to get tricky there with a Diggs or a Davis, and say, oh, I'm not going to play Davis. I'm not going to play Diggs. I'll play Davis. But then I'll get the tight end in there too. And it could end up being someone like a James Cook, like you mentioned. Now, James Cook is very inconsistent, but last season, talk about ETN earlier, it's kind of similar to that, but he had enough games. He even had a stretch there with like 6, 5, 4, 3, all in like a 5-game stretch. That's 4 games where, he had enough targets. So could see that again. The chat said, one guy said, first of all, Gabe Davis nuke slate could happen. Javonte Williams, Tony Pollard, CMC week. Yeah, it might be tough to fit all 3 of those, because Tony Pollard priced way up. CMC, $8,900. Cardinals defense. We'll see what happens to Andrews if Zay keeps playing this well. I agree. And then someone else, Jimmy G. Can you see Jimmy G getting 3 touchdowns versus the Bills? So if Josh Allen picks up steam, can you see it being the other way, where you actually need Jimmy G on the other side?
Absolutely. I mean, like, he's a serviceable quarterback, and I'm not a big Jimmy G buyer, but if they're down, which you have to assume with a 9-point line, they're probably going to be playing from behind. Let's not forget the dude has weapons. I mean, Devontae's still one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, and Jacoby Myers looked great week 1. Like, I think he is legit their number 2 receiver, because I kept thinking, oh, Devontae with another great catch, but it wasn't. It was just always Jacoby Myers catching him, because they both have the dreads and like 116 and 117. Very easy to confuse those two. So I could see that. I mean, that's like probably one of the sneakiest stacks on there, right? And then run it back with like a James Cook or a Stephon Diggs. Don't hate it, Bob.
Yeah, I think this was more of a showdown play. He was $200 yesterday. Again, if you're going with the game stack there, it is a condensed offense. I can understand, but I just don't see it myself. And now he's back to it's a value price still at $3,300, but there's other options there that I liked better. Any thoughts on that one?
I would only play Hardy if I'm in an Allen stack. I would never play him naked. I would never play him in a correlated play. Like, he is directly connected to Josh Allen having a big game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also about that too, just back to the Jimmy G thing. Like, again, I think if I was doing that, it's fine if you want to go Adams and Myers and then run it back with somebody. But like a Gabe Davis, if he has a nuke slate or blows it up, it's likely still that it's going to be with Josh Allen, because then Josh Allen does stuff with his legs, gets the bonus, couple touchdowns to him, and what else? Versus on the run back, I'd be okay if you use that savings to get to a guy like Diggs, who might just be 10 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Do not need Josh Allen, but the game still went off, and it was the other side of it. So I definitely could see that. Josh Jacobs, look at what Breece Hall at 70% health did, is what he's saying. Yeah. I guess you could try that. I mean, what is Jacobs? Jacobs 7,100. So what was his usage in week 1?
Didn't even see.
19 attempts. 3 targets, couple grabs for 23. 7,100, I don't hate it. I like the James Cook play and mixing them into those stacks a little bit better. Tony at 4.6K. We already talked about this Kansas City game. Any thoughts on that one?
I mean, that guy, first of all, I don't want to be the overreaction guy, but my overreaction is that guy fucking sucks. That's my reaction to him, and I'm too scared to play him. He's terrible.
Someone asked about Arizona D. Arizona D, 2,600 for them right now, and that's going up against the Giants, where we just saw Dallas D, but I don't think Arizona D is the Dallas D. So not feeling that one. And then last one, and then we'll get out of here. I'll let you take it away at the end here. But I said for this one was T. Higgins, right? And we just looked at it. I like that call. Sometimes that's the good thing about doing these shows. You get the chat involved, start talking some stuff up. We tell everyone at the start said Chase, T. Higgins, 8 targets, 0 catches. So, and I think someone said, I saw another stat, a tidbit was like 33% of them were catchable or something. So it's not even fair, but
right.
It is what it is. I mean, this is a different spot going back against. So I don't hate it, actually.
Yeah, I'm the studs. Any stud that didn't perform well week 1 are guys I'm going to be looking at, right? So that's going to be all my bounce back candidates. Just go on the long-term talent.
Yeah, and we talked about this one too, that, you can get in here and get action to this game if you want a couple plays in. I definitely think there's opportunities. Arizona had 6 sacks against Washington. Why can't they do it against the Giants? They can. I'm saying it just may not be the same thing, but that could end up being a nice little pivot. Let's say the $2,700 Jets end up being super popular against going against who are they playing against? Dallas. So we talked about earlier, right? When we were saying that they could be going against them and people hop on board there after the game they just had last night. Maybe it is a $2,600 team that you drop down to and play. I wouldn't hate that either. Any final thoughts, James? We got to get out of here, man. Anything else you want to talk about today, this slate, week 2, moving forward, this collaboration, next week, whatever you want to talk about, I'll give you the floor, and then we'll get us out of here.
The biggest takeaway I would tell you is, don't make your decisions today. Watch this injury news and let injury news dictate what your plan is going to be for the week. Because a lot of times, whenever we get word that a player is going to be back, that will dramatically decrease the usage of a lot of guys you are considering. Or if we get word that some guy is going to be out another week, that dramatically increases the usage. And maybe that makes you like a quarterback more because now he has more affordable targets because his big stud is gone. So just have it's Tuesday. Just have your ideas marinating. Some stacks that you may like, some correlations you may like, some games you may like, but don't start finalizing your decision until Saturday, whenever you start to get some real news from the Scheffner bombs that come out about guys who are likely to be inactive, and then you really narrow down your stacks and really kind of get it all down. This is just a fun way to get the thought started. As for overall, guys, I'm telling you, I'm about the process. I'm not about picks and plays, and I would never partner with anybody that doesn't also focus on the process. If you're ever going to be successful at this, it has to be done with you forming your own process, and that's why I love what they do over at SHIPIT, right? They have a whole educational program built around helping you build a process, because it's the only way to be sustainable, and DFS should be fun, it should be sustainable, and if you do it right and you do it long enough, eventually you'll hit a big one, and that's what they do over there. So if you like my content, I would highly encourage you to go over to SHIPIT, because they do all kinds of sports I don't do: MMA, NBA, MLB, NHL, all of them. Use my code DGen75 because that's going to get you 10% off. And oh yeah, it's going to let them know that I sent you, and they're going to want to know that, just like I like to know all the people they send to me. So go do it. I promise you won't regret it. And the best part is, if you're like, I can't afford all that, it's still cheaper to be there and on my site than all the other tout sites out there. So keep that in mind, brothers.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. It was awesome. Happy to be doing this with you. It's going to be an awesome season ahead. Again, reminder to remember for next week that it's going to be the same time, but over on the Degenerate 75 channel. So we're just going to rotate channels back and forth. Same crew, same people you know and expect. It's going to be awesome. That course that James was just talking about is here. Hoop won the Millie Maker last week, week 4. I was in both live finals, King of the Beach and Fantasy Football World Championship. We break down our process, the roster construction, live finals, qualifiers, showdown, a whole segment on. This is a 4-hour course. Tried to keep it as limited as possible that we could, but just wanted to let you guys know, if you go over, you do get this included for free as well. So use James's code DEGEN75, DEGEN75 at shipitnation.com on your first month or the 6-month bundle. You get 10% off. You'll get it in the door. You get this course for free. And if you want to go over to James's site, go to DEGEN75.com, use promo code SHIPIT, get 10% off any membership of your choice. That's going to do it for this one though, guys. We got James, we got myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.